Greetings. I hope everyone is doing well at the time of seeing this video. In today's video, we're going to be discussing about how to do a CMA, which stands for Comparative Market Analysis, and also we'll touch a little bit on BPOs, which stands for Broker's Price Opinion. So a Comparative Market Analysis and a Broker's Price Opinion. Now, things I discuss in this video is going to be my professional and personal opinion on how I approach doing a CMA and a BPO. I essentially use the same techniques for both, but depending on the brokerage you work for, the companies you're doing a BPO for, or the individuals, they may require different strategies, techniques, and ways to approach it. With BPOs, especially if you're doing them for a lender and so forth, it could be very, very different from the way that I approach things. So you may want to consult your broker and the company you're working with to how they want it done. But essentially the way I do it and take my technique is very straightforward. I do it pretty manually to get the results and accuracy that I want. A lot of individuals may like to use software, different types of programs that are made for CMAs. I personally do not like to. I like to do the work myself and get a direct understanding of what's sold in the area, what things look like to come up with a price, especially if I'm listing something for. In most situations, I'm trying to determine a price to list one of my listings for my sellers if I'm working with the seller to put a listing up for sale to get an accurate price of what's the highest amount that I could sell for. And also sometimes maybe for buyers if they're looking to purchase in a certain area and they want to make sure that the amount that they're paying is makes sense because they want to see what other properties in the area sold for. If listings in the area are selling for, let's say, $200,000, but the house they're buying is $500,000, maybe it may not be the best decision to spend that amount of money when the listings are only selling for about $200,000 in the area. So we'll be discussing that in this video. I'll try to keep it as quick and as fast as possible to get straight into the important stuff and how to do things and the techniques that I use. Before we begin, just take a quick second. Our company is Nizz Realty Inc. We're licensed in the state of Florida. At this time of making this video, hopefully other states in the future. We pay our agents 100% of their real estate commission, but more information about our brokerage and how we do things can be found in the description below, or you could give us a call if you're licensed in the state of Florida. Like I said, we pay our agents 100% commission. But you're here to discuss about CMAs, how to do them, BPOs. So let's get straight into the video and start talking about the important stuff. If you want to find out more about our company, give us a call. Look at the description below. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up one of my listings, and I've already listed it. It's on the market, but let's say that I'm trying to come up with a price for my listing, and we're going to do how I approach the CMA to come up with a value and check what's sold in the area. So I'm going to be working here in the city of Tamarack of Southeast Florida. As you can see Tamarack down there, and we're all the way Southeast Florida here, as you can see on the map. So we're going to zoom in to the city of Tamarack, and we're going to look at one of my listings now. I have my listing pulled up here. This is where it's located, and the first thing that I like to do when doing a CMA, trying to come up with a price of what my opinion of what the home is valued at, what it could sell for, or what it should be purchased for, either or, depending if you're working with seller or buyer. In this particular example, I'm going to keep it as I'm working with the seller and trying to determine the highest sales price to sell the property for. So this is where my listing is located. The first thing I like to do is I like to pull up a map of the general vicinity of where my listing is. So I have the map pulled up here, and what I like to do is I like to cut out a shape of the particular neighborhood. So what I'll do is, depending on your MLS or what program you're using, I like to cut out I guess a polygon it's called, of the particular area I'm looking at. Sometimes I make it smaller or bigger depending on how many listings I want or how big of the neighborhood I want to do comparables on. But for this example, I'm going to take this section of the neighborhood and compare all the closed sales properties that sold in the area. So now, after I draw the shape, the first thing I like to do is I go to the criteria, and many individuals may agree or disagree with me on how I approach this. but in my opinion, professional, personal opinion, what I like to look at is closed sales. Looking at what's active and what's pending on the market can be good to get some information from, but to me, what's important is I want to know what actually sold, because what's active doesn't mean it's going to sell for that price, and what's pending doesn't mean it's closed yet. The deal could fall through or the deal could close. It's still not closed. It's not set in stone yet. It didn't close. So I like to look at what actually closed. And the amount of time that I go back is 180 days. As you can see, I have put here 0 to 180, which means basically the code for my MLS that I'm looking back 6 months, which is 180 days. So you could look back further than that. I personally don't really recommend it unless you can't find any comparables that are useful within this the 6-month period. So you could go back 200 days, 365 days, a year back. I don't really recommend going that far. I personally like to only look back 6 months because the market's ever changing, and over time, after 6 months, things could be drastically different. You know, a lot can happen in 6 months. A lot can happen in a couple of weeks, but 6 months is a good time in my opinion. You know, not everyone may agree with me, but in my professional and personal opinion, going back 180 days is good. But enough about that. 180 days, we're going back and seeing what listings sold. So all these little blue dots are all the listings that sold in the past 180 days. So I know my listing is down here, I believe. Let me see, that's not it. Just make sure real quick. Yeah, this is my listing over here in this block. Okay, so I know that's where the home is. So this is the particular street that it's located on. Past 180 days, there's no closed sale here. I think the closest one nearby is this corner lot up here. This looks like a 3-2 that sold for 430,000. I have to keep in mind that this is a corner lot. This lot looks very big compared to the lot of my listing over here, and it's also, there's no neighbors behind it, and it has a lake behind it, it looks like, or the canal. So that's it's pretty good. But let's see what this property looked like. The first thing I like to do is check out the listings that sold nearby. So let's take a look. This home is a 3-2. It's approximately almost 1,900 square feet. And I like to take a look at it. As you can see, this is a good picture of it. That's a very, good corner lot, ideal location. So this is a pretty good listing as far as location wise and such. And I like to look inside, see what the upgrades are, how it looks, if there's been a lot of detail, such as landscaping, is there a pool? I like to just check it out and see what it looks like. See how the bathrooms look, the tiling, quite a few things, just to get an idea of how many upgrades were done on the property. As you can see, this property was listed at 380. It sold at 430. So, probably could have sold for more maybe. But it sold on April 13th, 2022. At the time of this video you're seeing, it's May 11th, 2022. So about 30 days ago this property sold. Almost 30 days ago, and it sold for 430. So that's pretty good. And it sold fairly quickly, I believe. So let's take a look at another listing. That was a 3-2, approximately 1,900 square feet, sold for 430,000. Let's take a look at this property over here. This is a 3-2, sold for 289. This one's a little over 1,400 square feet, approximately. It was listed at 275. It sold for 289.9, a little bit higher than the list price again. Let's take a look at the home. So we can see the home in its pictures. Fairly small home, no garage or anything like that. And the inside, fairly simple and basic, clean inside and so forth. Looks like it was, presented well, good for listing. I'm not sure if the appliances were included or not. Looks like there are some appliances. So, yeah, this particular home, I'm not going to comment on my personal preference on the home, but I can see why the list price is a lot lower than the home we just saw before. So let's go back to the map. Let's take a look at our listing right now. So we've seen a couple of comparables, and I want to waste too much time. I want to get into what's important. But essentially what I'm doing here is I'm looking at comparables and seeing the square footage, what the listing looked like, and what it actually sold for. As you can see, these two homes that we looked, they sold over the list price, and one sold for 430, another one that was a smaller home, not in the most optimal location as compared to this home, sold for 289.9. So our listing. Let's take a look at our listing. I wouldn't pay too much pay attention to the price. I already listed it and so forth at the owner's request, but I'm going to take a look at a couple of other things. Mine is about almost 1,800 square feet. I have, my particular listing. I see the pictures and so forth. So my listing is a 3-3, 3 bedrooms, 3 bath. It's approximately 1,800 square feet. So let's go back to over here. This particular listing, it was a 3-2, so it was one less bathroom. It sold for 430, and the square footage is almost 1,900. So as you can see there, the a little bit more square footage, a couple hundred more square feet, which does make a difference. It can make a decent difference and so forth. So let's go back to the map here. Let's take a look at some other comparables. I'll look at maybe one more. Let's take a look a little bit north of the property, in the neighborhood up here, and we could find maybe here's a 4-bedroom, 3 bath that sold for 475. So let's take a look at this listing. It's almost 1,800 square feet. So once again, it's a little bit bigger, almost the same size as the other one that sold for quite a bit. But this one was listed at 499, and it sold for 475. Let's see what it looks like inside. It has a garage, pool, and it's it's a let's see, it looks clean inside and so forth. Not bad. It's a nice pool home, decent square footage. It sold for quite a bit. It does have one extra bedroom. We have to keep that in mind. It's a little bit more square footage than my listing, which is only a 3-3. This one has 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, so that makes a big difference on the price and so forth. But it sold for 475, and this was back in November 16th, 2021, and it's the day of making this video. It's May, so it was last year around the holiday season. So that's pretty good. It's a good comparable right there to get an idea. That's something that's 4 bedrooms selling for 475. And here's another 3-bedroom that sold for 435. Let's take a look at this. This was listed at 420. It sold for 435, 15,000 over the asking price. It sold in January 2022. A few months ago, not too far. It's only May at the time of making this video, so that's not too far back. Let's take a look at the inside. The inside looks pretty good. It looks like there was a lot of upgrades done to this particular property so far. Let's take a little bit more looks. I'm gonna browse through it quickly. Yeah, the bathrooms look nice and clean for the most part. Yeah, this looks like it's been upgraded. It has a pool. So I could see why it sold for 435. The square footage is almost 1,800 square feet approximately, so it's maybe a little bit bigger, but roughly around the same size, and it's a 3-2, so one less bathroom than our listing. But sold for 435, so 15,000 over the asking price of 420. Not bad. So if you really want, I'm not going to make this video too long, but you can start looking at all the listings in this particular area. This looks like a good enough size. I wouldn't really start going south down here. I mean, you can start looking at listings down here and the different homes even further and so forth. I would do that if there wasn't a lot of listings in the past 6 months, but there's quite a few in this particular vicinity that I'm looking for, so this looks like more than enough. I mean, this is 27 recently sold listings in this particular polygon that I drew. I think that's more than enough, but let's just go off the comparables that I pulled up so far. The way that I take this technique is I look at those things. I look at the sales price. So, I see a 4.3, almost 2,000 square feet, not quite, sold for 475. The 3.2 is sold for 435, 15,000 over asking price. I see this one good corner lot here, sold for 430. It's a 3.2. You know, I see another one over here. There's a 3-2 that sold for 289. That was that much smaller house. That was didn't have a garage or a pool really. So it was a much smaller listing, not as upgraded. So I look at these things and I come up. This is more of like the way I come up with a price is I'm just taking into all these into consideration. So I see like the highest price something is selling for. This is a 4.3 that sold for 475. Um, You know, it was listed at, I believe, 499, correct? So yeah, it was listed at basically 500,000. It sold for a little bit less than that at 475. So you don't really want to be pushing it too much. And the way I come up with a price, let's say we go back to our listing. We had our listing, we saw the pictures of it and so forth. And basically ours is almost 1,800 square feet. It does have a pool, our listing, and it's the interior, as you can see, and so forth. It's carpet, the tiled showers, tile. Um, so this is more of like an opinion that I'm really going to come up with. I don't really like to tell my clients like I feel it's going to sell for this amount because at the end of the day, nobody really knows, especially the way at the time of making this video, the way the market is in South Florida. There's a lot of things going over appraisal value, but even then, if it wasn't, then things slow down. Sometimes you never know, and if you're trying to get the most value out of the home, uh, I like to, if the clients and the sellers are not in a rush, I like to try to list high, but not too high to the point where it's, a little bit too much. But, I like to list a little bit high and see how it goes over the first 2 weeks. And if there's no calls or anything, then then I'll lower the list price um, and take it from there. So as you saw with the comparables, with a 3.2, uh, some other listings are selling in the 370 range. This is more of it comes down to, I guess, opinion when you're doing this. The numbers that I'm going to come up with, I'm thinking with the listing that I have somewhere in the 400s. This particular listing, the seller requested to start off really high in like the 480s. So we tried that. Right now. It's listed for 465. Um, and what the property is going to sell for, we'll see eventually. But I think that's like, around a good range that I'd say to list the property for this particular one. To list it somewhere in the 400s. Um, I like to list it higher and so forth to see how many calls and showings that we'll get, but somewhere in the mid to upper 400s, what my listing will go for. I mean, we'll see, and what it sells for, but that's somewhere where I would go with listing this, our listing here in this property, because it's a 3.3, um, has a pool, the square footage, taking all those things into consideration. It's more of an opinionated thing, so I would list it somewhere in the 400s, preferably in the higher range, and then see where it goes from there when it's on the market. Um, you may have to lower the price. Sometimes you list a property and you get a ton of offers, and you know you can raise the price. It's much harder to raise the price than lower the price. But if you really need to and so forth, and need to reassess the valuation value of the property, sometimes you may have to raise the price and so forth if you listed it too low. But how I come up with these figures is, at the end of the day, it's really opinionated. It's something that I just kind of like look at and make my own opinion, and I don't like to be very, I like to give approximations because at the end of the day, no matter how much knowledge and experience I have or someone else has, you never really know. It's the only way you know is when you list it on the market and you see how the phone calls are and the inquiries. So I don't like to give definitive answers or really, feel very confident about this is the amount. I like to give approximations and then suggestions. And me personally, I always, if the sellers aren't in a rush, I try to sell the properties for the most money that they can and, start off high. So obviously with the sales prices around the area, we see things are selling for 475, 340, 283 for a 3.2. I'm not going to list the property for $500,000. Even this property here that sold for a lot, it was 4 bedrooms, and a lot more square footage. So it was, a bedroom makes a big difference, and 200, 300 square feet can definitely make another big difference. So, and even then, it sold for 475. So The square footage in the extra bedroom, I wouldn't really be going up to this type of price range. I'd be going somewhere a little bit lower than that, but obviously I'm not going to be listing it so low that I think selling in like the 380s or the 370s, I think our listing can do better than that, and I wouldn't recommend uh, our sellers in this particular example to sell it for anything around that price range. And I'm pretty sure if you listed it at like 370, 380, this particular listing, you'd be getting a ridiculous amount of phone calls, and you'd have probably like 50, 60 offers, and probably gonna want to raise the value of the list price because you could get a lot more out of it. But that's my opinion. You know, I'm interested in. I personally like to advise my clients, and I'm interested in selling the properties for the most that they can sell for. Because that's just my opinion, the way I like to do business. I won't elaborate further on that. But how I come up with these numbers, it's opinionated. It's tough to say. Each example is very different. Maybe if you like this video and you want me to make more, I'll try to give different examples and look in different areas and come up with prices and so forth. But it really just want to look at like the highest price, and you want to take a determination of the square footage is probably the most important thing. The square footage of the property. If something has 300 more square feet, that could change the value of the home dramatically. If something's 1,500 square feet and then another listing is 1,800 square feet, 1,900 square feet, that square footage makes a big difference. The amount of bedrooms and bathrooms definitely take into a consideration there. That makes a big difference if the home has 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, or if it has 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. That's a big difference. Even if you have a 3, 2.5, that could be a big difference if you have a 3-3 that's approximately the same square footage. That extra full, the full bathroom, the third full bathroom can make a big difference. And the other thing is upgrades. You want to see how the listing looks. What type of upgrades does it have? Does it have a garage? Does it not have a garage? Does it have a pool? Does it not have a pool? Is there major upgrades in the kitchen, the bathrooms, throughout the whole home? A lot of those things take effect, and all these things, I don't want to make this an hour-long video. I think it's probably already like 20-something minutes. I think I'm talking a lot, but a lot of the things I feel are important that I'm explaining because it all factors in, and things are very, things change all the time. It's very unique for each situation. Each property is unique. So to come up with these values, it can be a little difficult to come up with the best suggestions for your clients and to make things look good. But one important thing that I feel is that I try to list properties for the most amount that I can. If you're working with buyers, so let's say you're looking to purchase a home, let's say, the listing that I have, and it's listed for 465. Then you look at the comparables here, you see this for 475, 435, 377. So the price range that I have in the listing, if you're working with buyers, you could advise your buyers like, it's not dramatically overpriced, but it's not underpriced. It's somewhere around the middle. Where in the middle range? It's hard to say, but it's somewhere that's priced fairly correctly as far as what things are selling for in this particular area. So you really just have to look at the sales prices. You can look at active and pending listings, but I like to look at the closed sales. If there's no closed sales within the vicinity, and you might have to look at what's active and pending. It just depends. Each situation is unique. You can feel free to comment below or reach out, and I could point you in the right direction of how to approach things and so forth. Let me know if feel free to write in the comments or message our channel or me that if you'd like to see other videos about how to do the CMAs. But this is essentially how I approach BPOs as well. If I'm giving a price opinion, I'm looking at the comparables, what's sold, and then I give a price opinion on this is the amount. And you could prepare documentations for a price opinion. A lot of realtors, they like to prepare a whole CMA where they print out all these listings and so forth. You can do that. Me personally, I do things more simple. I do research on my own, and I just tell my clients a number of what I feel we should list it for, what I feel it should sell for. If they want to see the comparables, I could print these out or email them to the client. Some realtors, they like to make this whole folder and a printout of all these different comparables and sit down and show them all on the table and say, here's what this looked like, and here's all the pictures and everything, and try to make it this whole fancy thing. if that's what works for you and that's your technique for approaching things and your clients like that, more power to you. Me personally, I'm a very simple individual. I keep it very simple. I'll just do this research and I'll just tell my clients the number. If they want to see the comparables, I'll email it to them and say, here's a couple of different listings and how I came up with my number and value amount. I don't like to prepare this whole CMA with all these printouts and everything like that. I feel it's a little overwhelming sometimes for the clients, and I'm just a simple individual. I like to keep it simple, just come up with an answer and just get straight to it. Even though in this video I feel like I've been talking for quite a bit, going over a lot of things, but the main thing to take away from this is looking at the closed sales, go back 6 months, 180 days, cut out a good shape on the map so you can get a general area of the neighborhood that's not too big but not too small, and look at the square footage, look at the upgrades, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, and definitely the square footage is one of the most important factors. And take a look at the pictures, how the property looked, what they sold for, what they were listed for. If things are selling over the list price, it can mean something. And then coming up with the number, that just varies. Each thing is unique, and most of the time, it's opinions. It's really just opinions. And the way I approach my opinions is, if I'm working with sellers, I like to try to try to sell things at the highest price possible, and taking a little bit of extra time to list high and then come down if you need to on the price. If you're working with buyers, you want to look at the comparables and just, make sure if you're buying something in this neighborhood and it's listed for like 600,000, nothing sold in the area for 600,000. I think the highest is this one right here that sold for 475. So under that circumstances, might not be the best decision. Nothing selling for around that price range. Then your buyers can make a decision from there. But if something's listed for 450 and it's kind of similar, maybe it's one less bedroom and so forth, it might be priced fairly accurate depending on how much your clients like the property. If they truly fall in love with the listing, it's not so dramatically out of the price range of the comparables that, if that's what makes them happy and they just want that particular property. You got to do what makes you happy at the end of the day, so it might not be a bad buy for them because it's priced somewhere around the range of what the homes are selling for. Or something could be listed for in the 200s, and if things are selling for in the 400s, 300s, and something listed in the 200s, that's, maybe not a foreclosure and not like something that needs a lot of work and it looks fairly decent, fairly move-in ready, that could be a really good buy. So it just depends. All these things really depend on the recent sales and all the criteria of the property. And it's really at the end of the day coming up with opinions. And this is the way that I approach it with my professional and personal opinions. But you may do things differently. At the end of the day, my recommendation and professional advice, keep it simple. I like to keep things very simple. The answers and solutions can be found very easily and simply if you just do a couple basic things. You don't have to overcomplicate things, but if you want to do things a little bit more fancy, do things a different way, everyone has their own techniques. This is the way I approach things, though, is just like to cut out a shape of the area I'm looking in, look at a couple of the properties in the area, and you could go through all of them and so forth to do some more research, but it comes through repetition of doing this and just seeing things and just building knowledge of the market and real estate and listings and how things look, and formulating an opinion there. I think the most important thing you could take away from this video is to definitely just use approximations. All the criteria that you looked at and I discussed is definitely will help you get to your approximations, but you don't want to sound, because at the end of the day, nobody really knows what something might sell for and what exactly it's worth as far as if you're working with buyers. You could only come up with like approximations within a general range, such as what the homes are selling for at the maximum price and some of the lower ones at the lowest prices. So come up with approximations, and you don't want to give any type of definitive answers and so forth. It's just professional opinions at the end of the day, and it's okay to be wrong. You could give opinions out and so forth, but I highly recommend that you tell your clients, like, this is what I think it might go for, but I may be wrong. It's okay to not have all the answers. A lot of times we don't know what things are going to exactly sell for, or if a particular area or listing is going to be very highly desirable. So it's better to do that than to try to look like you're extremely confident and have this utmost confidence and tell individuals, oh, this is it's going to sell for this amount and so forth, and then it doesn't, or you don't want to be in that position. So it's better to just give approximations, professional opinions, and keep it within something that's within the range of what you're looking at, so that if something sells for much higher than expected or lower, or you list a property and there's not many calls, you didn't make yourself seem like overconfident, and then your confidence is clearly not accurate, because it's okay to be somewhat wrong, because nobody really knows at the end of the day when it comes to certain things with listings and what's going to sell and what's not and so forth. So use approximations and just be careful and try to give the best opinion that you can. But let me know if you want further elaboration on CMAs and BPOs. I think this is enough for this video. I don't want it to get too long, but this is the techniques as far as how to start searching in your MLS and looking at comps and coming up with prices. Let me know if you'd like to see more videos like this, or if you'd like to discuss more about maybe a unique situation that you have with a CMA that you're trying to do, or a price value that you're trying to come up with. See you in the next video. Thank you.